As I said before, you know that you don't have to read the whole passage or paragraph to actually get the correct answer or get a perfect score on the SAT writing. Hello, my name is Jostin and I am your SAT instructor. So SAT writing, it has 44 questions and 4 passages under 35 minutes, which means that you don't have a lot of time to read the passage. Many of you will know that you don't have to actually read the whole passage to get a perfect score every time. But unless you know exactly where you're looking, you're not going to get a perfect score. Your accuracy is going to take a toll big time. And also some of the questions require you to actually skim the whole passage or skim some of the paragraphs. And so today we're going to be looking at how to increase your accuracy in the SAT writing section and which questions actually require you to read a little bit more than you might want to. So today I'm going to be talking about 2 question categories. First is parallelism and consistency, and second is the context questions. So first, parallelism and consistency. SAT test makers really like to be consistent and really like parallelism. Such questions include subject-verb agreement error, second, subject-referent agreement, third, tense, fourth, narrator's point of view, fifth, formal and informal, sixth, comparison, and seventh, list. Subject and verb agreement is quite simple. You just need to locate which verb goes with which subject. For example, in a simple sentence like Sarah goes to school, the subject is Sarah and the verb is goes. And so these have to be grammatically matching. Second is the subject-referent agreement error. This is very similar to the subject-verb agreement error, but a referent is a word that is either it, he, she, or they. And this is referring to a subject that came before it. And sometimes this is very ambiguous. And so if there are 2 different subjects it could be referring to, then either you want the answer choice that is more specific or a restatement of one of those subjects so that is more clear for the reader. Third is tense. And so the tense is usually going to be very consistent in the paragraph. And unless you find a point where the tense suddenly changes, tense of the answer choice is going to be exactly the same as all of the other verbs in the paragraph. And so this is a simple one. You just need to look out for a sudden change in the tense or other verbs. Fourth, narrator's point of view. So the narrator's point of view, it could be a first person, second person, or third person. And this is usually consistent throughout the passage or at least the paragraph. So in a paragraph, if you see the narrator referring to the reader or the main character as you, then the answer choice is usually most likely going to be a second person. And next is formal and informal. So usually SAT reading is very formal. And so usually the answer choice that is informal or is a slang or a colloquialism or something that's conversational, it's going to be an incorrect answer choice. But if it is an informal writing, then you might want to reconsider that as well. Sixth is comparison. You can only compare between 2 like objects. So you can compare between people, you can compare between a person and another person, you can compare between object and another object, but not a nation and a person or a person's idea and another person. For example, you can compare between James's idea and Brandon's idea, or Brandon's idea and that of James, and Brandon's ideas and those of James. And lastly, it's a list. In a list, you have to expect grammatical consistency. And so if I like 3 different activities, sleeping, eating, and jogging, they have to be grammatically consistent. I can't like sleeping, jogging, and to eat. This is not grammatically consistent, and therefore it is a wrong answer choice. Okay, second, I'm going to be talking about the context questions. So context question types tell you where to look for in order to find the right answer. And as I said before, you know that you don't have to read the whole passage or paragraph to actually get the correct answer or get a perfect score on the SAT writing. But some of the questions require you to read the whole passage or skim the whole paragraph in order to get the right answer. So let's take a look at which question types require you to do this. So the first question type is a sentence order question. Sentence order question has numbers in front of the sentences, and it asks you where this particular sentence belongs. And in order to answer this question, you have to look at the sentences before and after the sentence. And then if you still cannot get the actual answer, then you have to read the whole paragraph. The second question type is sentence insertion question. So inserting one sentence into the paragraph. So which part of this paragraph does the sentence belong in? And so for this question type, you are required to actually skim the whole paragraph to understand which parts this sentence belongs in. Thirdly, there's a paragraph order question. And so paragraph order questions are the most trickiest because you're kind of required to skim the whole passage. Sometimes you don't have to do it, but you usually find that out really too late. Which means that you're going to have to spend a lot more time to actually go back and skim the passage, even though you could do that way beforehand. And so if you find that all of the paragraphs have numbers in front of them or on top of them, then just be safe and skim the whole passage, understand what the passage is about, and figure out where the paragraph belongs in. Fifth is the introduction and conclusion paragraph. And so introduction and conclusion could be introduction sentence, or conclusion sentence, or it could be introductory paragraph or concluding paragraph. So for this question, you have to find the main idea of the paragraph, and for the intro question, you have to read the sentence after, and for the conclusion sentence, you have to read the sentence before. And if you cannot get the right answer, even after you do this, try reading the whole paragraph afterwards. All right, so the next is transition questions. Transition words describe and illustrate the relationship between two different sentences. And so these relationships could be an agree and disagree relationship, an agree and agree relationship, or it could be a cause and effect relationship, or a general statement to a detailed relationship. And so these transition words have to correspond with that relationship. So what have I told you? I've talked about two things. First is parallelism and consistency question types. And second is the context question types. Parallelism context question types have a lot of different question types that it constitutes, but you have to know that these are just essential grammar rules that you have to know in order to actually solve the SAT writing questions. And second, I talked about the context questions. Context questions tells you where in the passage that you have to read in order to solve each question type, and which questions require you to actually skim the whole passage or skim some of the paragraphs. And so I hope that these strategies can help you increase or achieve a better score in the SAT writing section. Thank you.